folks who haven't been here before. We have a dignitary in the house. If you haven't met Curdy with Techstars out of Des Moines, you'll have to talk to her afterwards. Hey, my name's Troy Miller. I'm with Shaking Earth Digital, and I'm really excited to talk to you today about a product that we've created. But before we get into that, I wanted to let people know what Shaking Earth Digital is, because it's one of these awesome hidden gems in the state of Iowa that I don't think a lot of people know about. For starters, this is who we are. We develop apps. All kinds of different platforms, we figure it out. We've got a real sweet spot in VR right now, but we've also done AR and just your regular run-of-the-mill apps. You might have heard of some of our clients. We've got National Geographic, Peloton, Samsung, ADL, which is Anti-Defamation League. I had to learn that. Thanks, Jens. Al Jazeera, even Hancher, they've done some work with us too. But you see, we've got these large national, international companies that we've worked with, and we've done a lot of amazing things with them. And when you do amazing work with amazing people, a lot of times those people get awards. And so I want to brag on Shaking Earth, because it's not my company. The company is founded by Jens and Megan Zalzala. They're here in the room. I'll point them out in a bit. But so our clients, they've been up for Emmys. We've got shown at Venice Film Festival, Webby Awards. And this last award, the John Papajohn Venture School Award, that I want to tell you about today. And the product I want to tell you about is we call IDR. It stands for Immersive Development Reality. And in a nutshell, we say it's a math and coding VR sandbox. And so hopefully in your mind, when you think of sandbox, you think it's wide open. There's a lot of tools. There's a lot of crazy things you could do in there. It's kind of the wild, wild west. And that's what we've got. And so if you're like me, when you hear the word math, you think of school. You know, you might think, don't kids hate math. I still, as an adult, have had nightmares about algebra. Anybody else? I'm serious. Anybody? Yep, I've seen some hands go up. I'm not the only one. Don't kids hate math? Now, the beautiful thing about IDR is kids love doing math and coding in IDR. And I'm just going to show you a brief 1-minute video to try to give you a feel for what IDR is, because there's nothing like it out there on the market. So before you hit play on this, what you're going to see are students having fun with math and coding, where they're actually doing the math and coding in virtual reality, and then they get to hit play and see what they just did, and then go back and tweak it, and then hit play, and they can make games, and they can challenge each other, and it's a beautiful thing. So Jay, how do I hit play? Coding behind the scenes that the kids are doing. That's IDR. Okay, but how is this math? The beautiful thing about IDR, when Jens developed it, is he built about 40 or 50 math functions into it. And so as a sandbox, there are many, many things that can be done with it if you know math or as you learn math. I put together a little thingy here that shows some of the concepts in there, whether it's vectors or time, or various shapes, or addition, subtraction, multiplication, products, floors, dynamics, a lot of fun stuff in here. There's so much fun stuff in here, we still don't even know what it can do. And we'll talk about that here in a moment. So one of the beautiful things about this, if we're talking about just junior high, middle school, junior high, is when I sit down, I look at the math standards in the Iowa Core. It looks like right now with the functions that we have built in there, it could touch on about 40% of the things that are required in the Iowa core. And when I say a touch on or address, we don't have lessons written for those yet. I'm going to talk about that, but like we could as we continue to build this. The other beautiful thing about this is if this was used in a math class, you could allow teachers in schools to have students hitting computer science standards in a regular classroom, like in the math classroom, instead of having to create another class for computer science. And that's a pretty big deal when, listen, we've got a stationary day, it's 7 hours, and we've already got things packed in there. What do we throw out if we throw in a new computer science class, right? So that's a pretty cool deal. So we've got a ton of computer standards in here, 21st century skills, universal constructs. We have about 13 lessons that we've developed so far that I've mapped these to. And we're getting these out in pilots. I'm going to talk about that. So what's right about IDR right now? Well, let's talk about some of the cool things. Number one, kids love it. Number two, we're starting to align it to standards that are required by the state of Iowa. Number three, it hits these computer science needs for the 21st century that employers desperately want to make sure kids have, and parents want their kids to have it too. It's kinesthetics, moving around, like some kids really learn better moving around. I know I was one of those. I still have restless leg syndrome. Anybody else? 21st century skills. The engagement here, you hear teachers talk about engagement. Sometimes it's so hard to get kids engaged, but kids love doing IDR, so they're engaged. And this is big. I'm a former teacher. When kids can be a creator and not just a consumer, that is a gold standard that I always ask myself, can kids create in this and not just consume? Okay, what are the opportunities? Number one, I think we could build thousands of different lessons, whether it's computer science, math, there's some physics, so some science stuff that we could get in there. And we could build hundreds of challenges. You saw 3 of them. One had a piggy bank, one had this worm that was going around, one had a car. You could build challenges and go in and have kids tweak them or break them and challenge another kid to create them, getting that computer science programming experience. Hundreds of videos can be made on how we do this stuff. Also, teachers, if we can free them up so that they don't have to manually assess or look at what's going on, but the program automatically assesses things, that's going to be a huge benefit to teachers. We could build that in. The taxonomy is the standards, mapping them back to the lessons and things going on. We need research. We need to partner with people who can say, yes, we're passionate about education. We think there's a lot of promise in virtual reality. We want to study what you're doing and validate if this actually moves the dial for kids or not. Because if it doesn't, might as well throw it out the window, right? Build a dashboard for kids and teachers, and also allow them to share things they're creating across headsets and platforms. Okay, so what's next? Right now, we are recruiting pilot teachers to integrate this into their classroom for a week to 2 weeks. It's up to them. Also, we're working on lesson plans and making sure there's a lot of great things there to work on during the pilot. And we're going to port it over to a better device. So that's this quarter. Next quarter, we're going to kick off the pilots in Iowa, probably more local. And we're speaking with a research partner about an SBIR grant. And then second quarter, we'll continue to build in from feedback that we'll get from the teachers we're piloting with, and then formally start turning on the sales pipeline for IDR. So IDR, in summation, is serious fun. At this point, so that's it. I'm going to bring some folks up. Can you help me with a standing ovation for the founders of Shake Your Digital, Megan and Jens Zalzala? I'd like to open it up for questions. Yeah.
Are you the only ones doing this program, or is this kind of like, is Google racing to beat you?
So it's hard to define this because there's definitely a lot going on with computer science and teaching kids and things like that, right? So you have various different ways to, various different visions of this that people are kind of implementing. So, you have things on like the code.org side where you have like a web-based kind of very simple interface for trying to teach kids how to code. On the virtual reality side, you have various companies that are building kind of experiences to help learning and education. A lot of those, though, are more about showing you things than you creating things. So I can kind of think of them as like the new textbook, like seeing what a heart looks like in 3D is way cooler than, seeing it on a flat piece of paper that's probably still black and white in most of the textbooks. But, so that's great, but we're really taking it beyond that by making the kids the creators. So there are other people doing things in this field. I don't think there's anything quite like this right now.
Liz.
Do you have a background in math and coding, or are you using subject matter experts to kind of come up with the curriculum?
So we are, we're experts on the development side from our company, what we've been, doing all the work with all these clients. We have been partnering with teachers on the kind of the curriculum side, and we're continuing to do that, and we're looking for more to partner with. So we're, as Troy mentioned, we're working with a researcher at MIT. We're hoping to do a larger kind of research project with them. So yeah.
Also, follow-up question. What's kind of like the grade level target for this product? Is it like junior high, high school, all of the above?
Yeah, so when we looked at computer science in schools, there's kind of a big focus on some elementary learning, and then kind of a little bit of a follow-up in the high school level. But we saw this kind of big gap at the middle school level where there's a huge drop-off of interest in computer science. So that's kind of our initial target. Like if we want to get people kind of interested in this again and kind of continue to using it, we need to hit that level because everybody coming out of elementary just drops off. And then if you look at some of the curriculum that they're employing in high school right now, it's not very user-friendly, it's not very student-friendly, so a lot of people kind of don't get back into it. So our hope is if we target middle school first, that'll kind of create a longer-lasting interest. Yeah.
Have you thought at all about informal science education to utilize this? So looking at after-school programs through nonprofits or outreach programs, or even just piloting this out?
Yeah, and we actually ran a few summer camps over the summer to gather information. A couple around the country, a few locally. So yes, we are absolutely looking at that.
If you have some contacts you want to give us, we can talk later.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the back.
So my question is maybe two-part. So as far as like integrating into like K-12 space, I know like from the security aspect, there's a lot of concerns about student data and everything like that. Is your system something that just integrates into the existing infrastructure, or is it something that resides outside? And I'll let you answer that one first, then I'll ask this.
Sure. There's a couple potential iterations of this, but the way we're picturing it right now is that you're going to basically get a headset with this on it, and it's not connected to anything actually, so it's super secure. Now we'd like to build connectivity into it so that people can actually share their creations and things like that. And there are ways to do it manually, but it's more of a pain, right? So when we hit that point, I'm sure we'll, have to cross a lot of those barriers because there's a lot of infrastructure there. Like you have to create user accounts and blah blah blah. So there's a lot there. But in its kind of base iteration, it's super secure just by the nature of how it's built. Yeah.
And then the second part of that was I saw the SBIR stuff. Have you considered taking the approach of like porting it over to training the cybersecurity workforce, specifically like in the DoD type of workspace? Because there's a very big gap right now as far as the talent goes, and I can see something like that being valuable as far as teaching the basic concepts of cybersecurity and how to actually secure networks through that kind of practical exercise in a VR way.
I think I'd have to look at that more. I know that Microsoft just got a $10 billion contract, so I'm sure there is money there with that. But yeah, I don't think we've looked at training cybersecurity specifically. We have had various people who looked at it come up with you know, ways that this can be used to teach a whole variety of things. So yeah, we were always collecting more info on that, and definitely would love.
Yeah, as a sandbox, there's a lot of opportunities. Steve.
What about the homeschooling market and tutor market, and just for, like, I have a 14-year-old who likes math, doesn't like the math teacher. So bringing this and say, we're going to do math tonight, get on your headset. You know, is it something that we can put on the existing systems? I don't know what system we have. Is it, how well could it be taken to the family?
Yeah, I'll try to tackle that. So I think it's a fantastic market. So just to be really clear up front, it has a lot of math concepts in it and can address, I think, ultimately up to 40% of a 5th through 8th grade math curriculum. But those lessons don't exist yet, and there's some functionality we need to build in, but also then it needs to be tied to the standards that, so if you sit down with your kiddo and say, hey, we're doing math tonight, oh, and by the way, there's an IDR component to this because you've matched up the standard with whatever your home curriculum is. You know, your kid could be like, yes, I want to get this done so I can do this and have fun with that component of it. So that, yeah, I mean, that will be part of it once we get it done. Good
If
question.
you need any 14-year-old, 8th grader
Guinea pigs?
archetypes tested on it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'd be interested in knowing what math curriculum you use and just any feedback you have on that. Like, 'cause we've talked about homeschool market for sure. Yeah, right here.
So I'm curious where the name Shaking Earth Digital came from and what brought you to Iowa.
Okay, so there's a legend, actually. This is so my last name is Zalzala, and my dad is from Iraq, and his family, like generations back, was from Syria. And as the legend has it, so they were traders that would, you know, have like camel trade caravans that go between Syria and Iraq and different places. And so they were out in the desert with their caravan, and they look out and they see bandits in the distance, and the bandits are coming towards them, and they're like, "Crap, we're all gonna die." So he gets off his horse and he starts praying. He's like, "We need help." And as the legend has it, the earth started shaking and split apart and formed a chasm between the trade caravan and the bandits, and they were saved. And so that day he took on the name Zelzele, which basically means shaking earth or earthquake. So with that in mind, we went with Shaking Earth Digital. So
Because you're a legend.
that's well.
That's what I'm hearing. Yeah,
Sure,
good question.
market.
And I think there's another part.
There
You're-
was,
you
how
were.
about you to Iowa?
What brought us to Iowa? All she did. So we were out in LA. I mean, I've traveled the world. I've lived in so many different places. So I was in LA. I was working on movies and commercials and stuff like that. And I met Megan at the company I was working at. And she's originally from Iowa. And we were, you know, we got married and all that stuff. And then started having kids, and we were kind of like, we were doing a lot more of the development stuff. And a lot of that we were kind of just doing from home. And we were like, why are we paying LA prices? And we have no family support or anything. So we're kind of like, well, let's just give Iowa a shot, you know? And I'd visited many times at that point, and I really liked it. Where I come from originally in Germany, it was basically a little town surrounded by cornfields. And so I was like, I feel right at home here. So yeah, we did that, and you know, there was a lot of concern about, you know, like, are we going to be able to do work here? Are we going to be able to get clients work with us in Iowa, you know? And then the people in Iowa were like, well, you're crazy for moving to West Liberty and not a big town like Des Moines or whatever, you know? So everybody kind of thought we were crazy, but it worked. I don't know, it totally is fine. Like the way work is done these days, so much of it is remote. Like pretty much all of our clients are still either on the coasts or in other countries. But we make it work, you know. It's fine, and I love it. I don't know, so yeah, I think it worked out well.
You mentioned that in the opportunities section, like a lot of this hinges on, you know, validating its effectiveness, and so I don't know if you've already done some early testing and are starting to see some of that, or kind of what you're, or if that's kind of what this phase you're in right now is doing, is just proving it, yeah.
So we've definitely done early work. So we ran a pilot program with the school in West Liberty. And actually the picture that Troy had up in that section was a bunch of kids holding up purple ribbons. So they submitted their final projects that they created in IDR to the ITech conference, and all 5 of them ended up getting purple ribbons, which was actually more than all the other schools combined in our region. So yes, huge validation there. I think the type of validation we're looking for now is actual research projects so that we can show schools, hey, you know, this is how it helps, you know, their understanding. This is how much it helps retention. This is how much it, so, you know, because we have very like anecdotal kind of validation. You know, the kids were super into it. They were, you know, they were learning stuff. They kept asking about it after. In fact, the teacher actually ended up taking it into the math class, you know, and had some kids doing things there. And as we're showing it to teachers that are in math, they were like, oh my gosh, it's so great to be able to visualize some of these concepts because they're very difficult concepts to portray on paper or in any other ways. I mean, they're still using the train problem, you know, these days. And it's like people now, we don't take trains, you know, like the kids can't relate to that. So being able to see it and being able to see how it applies is huge for them, you know. And so we know this, but we need to have somebody say it on paper so that somebody else believes us, you know.
Right, a lot of anecdotal, and we'll continue to have a lot of anecdotal. When do we get researchers in to concretize it in different ways? That's what we're working on. Hopefully this thing with MIT works. I'd love to get together with Iowa, ISU, you and I prior to that and do some things. But the cool thing about education is once something is proven to be working in the classroom, teachers talk, and because they want to help each other, because they want to help kids. And so if it does what we say it does, it'll spread.
Just on the research front, just maybe a couple other options to look at. One, and you might already know these folks, so but Ben Vane in the College of Ed, his graduate program that was at Wisconsin-Madison's Game Life Society, so he looks at a lot at games and educational outcomes, so it might be
cool.
a friendly,
yep.
So he's local. And then at the University of Washington, there's a professor, researcher, Zoran Popovic, and he developed Dragon Box, which is a game for kids learning algebra. It teaches algebraic concepts through dragons.
That sounds pretty cool. I'd like to check that out.
And his research team also developed something called Foldit. I don't know if you remember the story, but there was a DNA sequencing issue that researchers were struggling with, and then they digitized it and turned it to the game community. And within a couple of weeks, gamers figured out the sequencing problem. But he does a lot with games and research, and other, so it might be another friendly for how this might work.
Let me get that from you afterwards. Cool. Who else?
Yeah, so some other local folks, have you talked to like Pearson, ACT,
Yep.
or HLT, and are they, just curious as to what those discussions have been about, what
Yeah.
after from them?
So some of that came through, we went through the venture school program. So Ben from HLT, he's one of the founders, is one of our mentors. Yeah, definitely had discussions there. Our business is very different than theirs, but yeah, we continue to talk to them. We have contacts at ACT and Pearson. We've demoed to both of them, and we've had definitely discussions with them about assessment. That's obviously ACT's a big thing, and so we're talking to some of the machine learning people, trying to figure out like how we can make this kind of more automated, but like work in a meaningful way. And so we're definitely talking to all of them.
It's interesting to hear from ACT on the evaluation side. I'm curious maybe a little more on the training program.
Yeah, and it was what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we just did a presentation at Pearson. So yeah, we're hoping to talk to them more, and they're definitely forward thinking right now, and they're, so yeah, we're hoping we get a lot out of that partnership.
I got 2 questions really. One is just how you came up with the concept for IDR, because I think it's so fascinating, and 2 is given the funding issues with middle schools and elementary schools, public ones especially, how are you working on that to make sure that it is viable from a finance standpoint to really get this integrated into schools? And
so it started with the teacher, actually. So we've been doing a lot of outreach with schools, and one of the teachers came back to us and saw this opportunity to to make something new, and we had basically found the STEM Best Grant. And the STEM Best Grant is a government grant from the STEM Council, the Governor's STEM Council, and it's basically a $25,000 matching grant to have businesses involved with school and then do really cool stuff. And so she came to us and basically said, I need a way to get these kids engaged and interested in computer science and what it can do. Can I show them what it can do? And she didn't want, she didn't want to just have them put on the headset and go to Africa or something. Like, she wanted them to make something, and that's really where this started. And so we started looking at different ways to do that, and that's kind of how the idea of IDR came about, is us working with that teacher. As far as the funding issue, it's kind of a weird thing because schools have money. All right, everybody thinks schools don't have money. Schools have tons of money, but it's how those funds are allocated and how they are used that's really the issue. Now, the good thing there is there's a lot going towards computer science and applied learning right now. So, the government is super interested right now in getting more computer science and things. If you look at any of the Future Ready Iowa stuff that's coming out of the government, it's all kind of going towards that. So there's a lot of professional development money. There's a lot of, there's definitely funds available. That being said, one of the problems we're encountering is that the teachers themselves often don't have access to that or don't know what that they have access to. It's a weird thing where oftentimes they're like, you have a budget, but we won't tell you what it is. Which is kind of like a weird thing, but I mean, and I sort of get it. You don't want somebody just spending money because they have it, but what we're seeing basically is teachers scared because they don't think they have the money, or they don't think they have a ways to do this. So that's definitely one of our big issues, it's sometimes it's easier to work at the district level because the district has a much better understanding of what their schools have available to them, where that money goes. So that's one of the things we're looking at. But yeah, I mean, that continues honestly to be one of our big challenges, is figuring out that model of how we actually, process a purchase with the school, figuring out the right path
even
into
just
it.
Even just the hardware is expensive, right? That's
Yeah, and so, we're looking at bundling, we're looking at selling it just by itself, because a lot of schools are experimenting with VR. They have teachers that are, playing with it and doing really cool things with it, honestly. But they might have one station, whereas we ran our pilot program with 8, so that more students can be doing it, and that's really what we want. We want to be able to have a classroom where everybody can use it. So yeah, absolutely, it's a difficulty, but yeah, that's all we're working on, and that's a lot of the pilot program's going to bring a lot of that validation.
So to put a little bit more on that, hardware-wise, I would say the cost of what it is to do IDR now and into the past was probably more like $1,500 per unit, and now we're probably down to about $500. So that's pretty cool. And so one of the bullets I had on there is we're going to port this to a new device. We're going to go to the Oculus Quest, which is between $400 and $500. It's non-tethered to a computer, a lot easier to set up. And so the technology's coming, but you're right. If we have barriers, there's two. One is do they have the tech? And number two is do they have the money to and the bandwidth to want to do training and jump into this new crazy thing that we're showing them. That's why these pilots can be super helpful in getting the teachers saying, yes, it moves the needle. And Jens talked about it a little bit, but if you were to look at any state, whether it's the state of Iowa or any other state, and say, oh, how much money are you allocating to schools to innovate in math versus how much new money are you allocating to innovate in computer science? Computer science and STEM is where the additional funds are coming. So I think that's probably the most likely way to go forward with that. But if the computer science person says, yeah, we could, or the math person says the computer science person, we could use this in both of our classes or X, Y, and Z, I think there's some nice crossover, so we'll see.
Once you have the hardware in the school, then it's easy enough to
Right, and
around.
another strategy there is, on our part, in my mind, is, listen, if you've got an Oculus Quest, let me tell you about all the other amazing things out there that you could use this for when you're doing anatomy class and you're doing this and doing that, so that schools can better use those devices. It just strengthens their justification for the cost outlay.
And a lot of those schools are upgrading right now anyway. So the state of Iowa has sort of put a mandatory but not quite mandatory thing out there for computer science. So a lot of schools right now are looking at upgrading anyway. And we're trying to make the case to them to say, hey, don't just buy the cheap computer that's going to be outdated in 2 years anyway. Look to the future and really, what's going to happen, what's going to benefit you.
I I was thinking, because I do know a lot of schools, especially, so I'm from New York City originally, and I know a lot of public schools, even though they are mandatory enforcing this element of computer science, they still don't have the funds for it just because there's so many students. And so have you considered at all a renting kind of style instead of like being like, oh, you guys buy the Oculus outright, like you can rent it for your lesson plan and we can provide what you guys are.
Yeah, and there's two things we're looking at there. One is us renting it, basically giving it out to them so they can teach a unit and then send it back to us, and then we can send it to another school. The other one is working with the area education groups. Like, so for example, right now, a lot of the AAs in Iowa have a whole bunch of cardboard VR headsets that they have Google Expeditions on. And any school can basically check those out or apply for it, and then they send it over, they use it, and then they send it back. So that's definitely potentially one model as well, where we're not the ones lending it to you, but like the school, like the greater kind of school area has them.
What about tapping the parent-student teacher associations for some of these contracts? Because, those are the really active parents within that school. And they're the ones that tend to speak up and put some pressure as a method of entry, I guess.
I haven't thought about that subversive model. No, but I will. I mean, it's another avenue. Passionate parents, they're listened to.
How much involvement needs to happen before, do you guys have to, obviously you guys have to run the program now, but is it something that they can just throw on the headset, select the is there a menu system?
Right.
That they can,
Great question.
Yeah. So the way we currently built it for the curriculum, for a classroom, it's actually built for pair learning. So it, in theory, takes very little teacher input other than just to get you introduced to it and whatnot. But then it's really the students teaching each other, and going through it. And in our first pilot program, that worked extremely well. They tore through the curriculum and just learned a lot that way. And it's really kind of like, and also, that's where a lot of the 21st century skills come in too, like working as a team and things like that. We do have kind of self-learning lessons in there. We just have a little bit of it, just like 5 lessons. And that's kind of meant for like libraries or other places, which I guess we didn't mention, but we're also in some libraries, where somebody might go in by themselves and start learning it. So we really want to expand that, and we really kind of want to do more testing with it. But hopefully it gets to the place where the teacher themselves don't have to feel like they have to be an expert in it before they can give it to someone else. Hopefully it's something where they can be like, hey, here's this really cool thing, go play with it, and learn from it.
There's a concept in education, K-12, that is increasingly popular, and that is teachers need to be co-learners with students because things change fast, new technologies are integrated, and it's a beautiful model because then they don't have to be, if we could allow them not to have to be the expert, that's the best case scenario.
This isn't related to this subject, but can you kind of tell us about some of the awesome work you've done for other companies? Like, what have you done for National Geographic? I know you've been like Emmy nominated, right, or something like that.
Yeah. So with National Geographic, we just won a Webby Award with them, and they've also had content Emmy nominated on our platform. So we did this really cool thing where they have a theater in their headquarters in DC. It's a 400-person theater. And there they have, some of their explorers and photographers come and talk to basically audiences presenting their stuff. And what they wanted to do is give people a way to feel like they're joining them on their expedition. So they developed this idea of virtual expeditions. And so basically you have an audience, 400 people, and at some point, so the explorer's up there talking about it, and he's like, all right, now I want everybody to come in with me, so everybody put on your headset. And basically we have 450 Oculus Go's there. We put them on, and I'm in the back in the booth, and I hit a button, and everybody basically simultaneously jumps into this 360 video where they can see, basically they can feel like they're there, and they can see, what it's actually like to be in Antarctica or climbing a mountain or whatnot, and you can look all around, and you can, it's really pretty cool. It's really special, and I mean, you can watch 360 videos on any of your headset now, but like being there and being, having the actual explorer there talking to it, it's a really special thing. So we built the technology to make that happen. basically. So we wrote it so that we have 450 headsets completely synchronized, at the touch of a button, and building all that infrastructure out. We worked with another company in West Liberty, Shift9 Technologies, to build out the network to support that, and so that's one of our projects. That's very like tech heavy project. We also do like a lot of content-based things. So we worked with like the Anti-Defamation League and our partner in Los Angeles called Artie to build kind of an anti-bullying project where you're in VR and you're hiding out in a closet, and your friend comes in and she starts talking about you. She's like, "Oh, good, you're here." Like, basically, she noticed another student's being picked on, and like somebody's leaving her nasty notes every morning, and so you're basically hiding out trying to see who it is, and this project is very it uses like AI and speech technology. So you're actually just talking. There's no controllers, nothing. You're basically just talking to this person, and you end up seeing what it is, and you have to kind of decide what you want to do and whatnot. So. Something like that. For Hansher, we built, it's pretty fun. They have a huge event next year called the Big Splash. And so we built a marketing piece for them in VR where they're gonna set a high diving world record there. And so we're letting people see what it's like to be on the high dive platform. I keep forgetting how high up it is, but like probably like 80 feet up or something like that. The actual record's gonna be at 99 feet, but that was a little too high. But basically, we have an actual board in the real world, and when you put on the headset, you're basically on a diving platform, and you see a virtual board in front of you, but you can actually step out and onto it, and it feels like you're like 80 plus feet up there, and you can see Hansher, and you can see the Iowa River, and it's so fun for like little marketing events, like where basically you just have a group of people coming through and stepping out on it, and people freak out. Like some people are like, "Oh, whatever, I'm walking out there." Most people are like, "Holy moly," like, even though it's all fairly cartoony, they just, it does stuff to your mind. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. What else have we done? A lot of like 360 video applications, things like that.
Built the entire platform for Al Jazeera Digital, the platform that ran, and you explain it.
Yeah, I mean, it basically allows them to distribute 360 video content that they're recording. So they have a lot of really interesting documentary content, and lets them manage all of that and distribute it in VR.
How about Comic-Con, Mr. Robot?
Ooh, that was a fun one. That was with a company called Within, and they're really one of the leaders in 360 video. So they did a project with, I'm blanking on the director's name, but basically the guy who directs the show, Mr. Robot. And it's a really interesting 360 piece, and so they premiered it at Comic-Con, and they handed out, I think, like 5,000 of these headsets, these cardboard headsets, and you put your own phone into it. The interesting part there was it was sort of like a blend of old school TV watching, where like nowadays you can watch anything at any time, but of course back then, you had to turn on the TV at the right time. So they kind of wanted a little bit of a feel of this, where we basically had like a worldwide reveal, where you downloaded the app beforehand, and you had a big timer going, and then at a specific time it unlocked. So everyone around the world could kind of watch it at the same time. And then once it was done, like you couldn't watch it again. So it's like this old school kind of TV feel to it, but kind of merging it with this brand new technology, VR. So that was a really interesting kind of piece to put together. We also, because Mr. Robot is all about hacking, so we had to actually come up with like really fun encryptions to like prevent people to hack the videos from it. Because we gave them the video beforehand, but basically said you can't watch it. And so it was really kind of fun to see what people tried to do to hack it and whatnot. So, and they weren't able to, so we did a good job.
So that's like 6 of dozens of cool stories of what Shaking Earth Digital has done.
So I'm going to ask our final question. What can we as the community do to help you?
Yeah, well, I like Steve's approach. Hey, can my kid possibly participate with this, and what would that look like? We need to reach out. We are reaching out to schools and saying, do you want to be part of this pilot? If you know courageous and adventurous teachers in grades 5 through 8 deal with computer science or even math, you can put them in touch with me. I'll give you a card. Also, we would desperately love research to be done. And I know that sometimes that only comes if there's research dollars that are attributed to that thing, so that's kind of part of the rub. Because we can say something's amazing, and teachers can say something is amazing, but if it's not documented by a researcher, it's like, well, how legit is it? That's a couple things.
But we can help with grant applications.
We can help with grant applications. I'd say another thing is you just heard some really cool stories about Shaking Earth Digital as a whole. If you know of organizations who really want to aggressively push the envelope with augmented or virtual realities, we are a proven partner, and we will continue to do this line of work also.
Very nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our presenters.
To a lot of these, I feel like this is the most engaged I've ever seen an audience, so thank you. This was amazing.